If one looks at digital banking, typically the area that comes into mind is retail lending. Retail loans where digital presence and digital experience for the consumer is something that can really be very useful for banks in enhancing the consumer experience and at the same time also growing their business. And that's an area that has been well plowed, and the opportunities there have been talked about at large. What I want to therefore focus on instead is on the use of digital technologies in banking for the large corporate loans. If we look at the Indian banking scenario, look at the last 3 decades, the periodic bouts of growth and then stress that we have witnessed in the Indian banking sector, that the downturns almost inevitably have come from the bad assets that are generated in the large corporate loans. If we think about the inadequate penetration on the retail segment, that's partly also because of the losses that banks suffer on their large corporate loans. And possibly the most important challenge for the Indian banking sector now is to actually use the new technologies, the digital banking, to really emerge and come up with a model that enables banks to do large corporate lending without losses, without non-performing assets. That is the challenge that the Indian banking sector needs to really embrace. Some very successful stories in the use of digital technologies, analytics, etc., in the expansion of retail banking. But the use of analytics, technologies, digital, banking in the area of large corporate, being able to overcome and alleviate the adverse selection and moral hazard problems, which really, are at the key of bank lending. I think that is a challenge that still needs to be overcome by public and private sector banks alike. And that's why I want to focus on this area, because by 2025, 2030, if the Indian banking sector really has to emerge as a globally competitive sector, I think figuring out how to utilize the digital technologies for lending to large corporates without crony lending, without zombie lending, evergreening, some of those phenomena that we've witnessed over the last decade particular, I think is really critical. And therefore, I certainly want to emphasize that is the next challenge that the Indian banking sector, both public and private sector banks,